So, folks, in recent days, the dilapidated condition of Vale Royal, not my word, the official residence of the country's head of government, has captured the public's attention. A viral social media post by sports researcher Carol Beckford showcased the heritage site in a state of disrepair. Our guests now are Mrs. Deborah Hicklin-Gordon, UNESCO Global Expert Facility Member on the protection and promotion of the diversity cultural expressions, and architect Hugh Dunbar, both on Zoom. Good morning to you both. Welcome to Smile. How are you guys?
Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Great to have you guys with us. Miss Deb, let me start with you. What is and I know it's the official residence of the Prime Minister. I also know that the Prime Minister doesn't live there. So what happens at Vale Royal? Before we get to why it needs to be fixed and stuff, what happens there now?
Well, at the moment, nothing. Nothing can happen there because of the state of disrepair. But when it was in its heyday, it was used in its last years for meetings and activities and events and functions, official functions. The last function I remember, like major official function that I remember attending there, was the Prime Minister Abe, the late Prime Minister Abe. When he was invited here, they had the celebratory evening for him at Vale Royal, and he was dancing up a storm. Confidential meetings were also held there, and it was also the space where the opposition and the government, sitting government, would have their talks. So it was symbolic in that way as a place of negotiation, a national place of negotiation.
Okay, Sir Hugh, I know what the word means, but when I hear disrepair in this particular instant, what that mean?
Disrepair just means it's in a I don't know if you can say disjointed. It's not really seriously dilapidated. I think dilapidated might be a better word, because the conditions of wooden buildings over time, they tend to deteriorate if they're not managed properly, and they require active use. Things that you don't use, eventually you will lose them. So disrepair just means that it's in a very, very poor state all over, structurally, as far as the envelope is concerned, and for practical use. That's what we could consider to be the disrepair.
Yeah. Before we get into what it would cost to try to restore it, Deborah, a lot of people would say a building like that, the expenses to maintain it might be a lot. I don't know what they are. And they may say that's a lot of expense on the government. So why keep it? What's so significant about Vale Royal that it should still remain a part of national architecture?
Well, as you know, Delia, culture is material and immaterial, right? So artifacts like buildings, historical buildings, they help us to kind of shape our ideals and ideas and perspectives and values and so on. And people kind of say, okay, that might be a stretch, but it's true because it connects history, the past with the present. So why then keep it? Or how can we keep it? Well, I remember when Prime Minister Patterson was, when Mr. Patterson was Prime Minister, he put together a team of people. They were private sector individuals. A distinguished private sector leader chaired that team, and they found ways to kind of help to fund the repair and upkeep of the building. So there are ways to do it, and Mrs. Simpson Miller also did the same when she came into office. It needs to be tented every now and then for, as we call them, chichi, termites. And there is a great deal of that needs to be done to upkeep old buildings. They're often infested. The wooden floors kind of, but I'm sure Hugh can better tell us some of the structural things that happen. But I think there are ways that it can be kept up. And I believe we really just need to use our imagination and have the will to do it.
Hugh, it's it's giving ward theatre to me, and I'm one of the people who believe that ward theatre has been put in such a state of disrepair that the cost to repair it, it might be cheaper to just build an entirely new structure and call it the new Ward Theatre. I'm one of those people. Talk to me about Vale Royal and the cost to repair this versus saying, listen, we may just have to put in a new structure and call it the new Vale Royal.
As Deborah said a while ago, there is history is a immaterial and a material thing. There is a value to a visual. Somebody driving by or knowing that there is a venue here, and the venue was actually built by and lived in and did such and such, has an impact. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. And the value of that is a lot more than, say, just telling somebody about it, or you send somebody a link and say, well, take a look at it, or you read it in Google. I did a quick check on Vale Royal to find that there was a place in Trelawney called Vale Royal, which was built in 1823. And I was surprised to know that. I didn't know that there was such a thing. But Trelawney used to be the home of most of the, the big plantations back in the day. So this having been a part of a plantation, it was built for specific use. It used to be the office for the Secretary of the Colonial Office, which is something that we don't talk about, but we have a valuable asset in terms of the architectural reflection of this building. There's a lot that went into it and a lot that happened with it in terms of our political history and in terms of our physical architectural reflection. I think it's very important to maintain this as the Ward Theatre, as are so many of the older buildings that we have around the country, because they reflect where we have been. They reflect what we would like to go to. They reflect what we have done as architecture does. So I do believe that we have to place the value that will say, well, we really and truly want the thing that the person walked on or touched to be there, so that, yeah, if we can knock it down and build something new, do we have the artisans to build that quality or that level of detail that we're seeing there? We unfortunately are losing a lot of our artisans because there seems to be an opinion that, people don't respect those people who do things with their hands. And those perhaps are the most important people in the world.
Yeah.
Because the fretwork that's there, the wood that's there, the joinery, it is very important, and I believe that we should make the effort, and Daily, as you mentioned, for the value of Ward Theatre. I have been to Ward Theatre. I have been to performances at Ward Theatre. It's a beautiful, grand space, but just to walk into the place, you can touch the walls. I know that Mars Rand walked through here. Miss Lou was on the seat. Who was on the stage? Garth Fagan was dancing on the stage. All of these people, then you feel a better connection that you can walk through and touch, feel, and be in the same space.
Yep.
As opposed to something that happened last week.
Yeah.
You built it last week and the tile is out of style. They have to buy new tile and all that kind of thing. So I think we have to make the effort to maintain our history, because this is our history. As much as there are negative aspects to our history, there are some very positive aspects to our history. And we have to build that. We have to hold on to it. There's a great teaching moment,
Yeah. Sir Hugh, I want to stay with you. The Minister without portfolio with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, he said the facade is what has deteriorated. It is not the internal aspects of the building. But listening to you, I think there's a suggestion that there's much more than just the facade, don't?
When you're getting sick, there is normally an internal issue going on. And the last thing to reflect the illness is the external reflection of that. I think several years ago, there was a review done of the building to determine its soundness. And I think for the value that's there, to suggest that we can stand outside and say, boy, it looked like it have need some paint. Or maybe just fix the neural post on the baluster there. That I think is not necessarily the road I would like to take. Based on the photographs I have seen, and I've been to Vale Royal, I've seen what the building looks like maybe 10, 11 years ago. And it's in need of great care. It needs somebody to go in there and say, all right, you know what happened? We need to rebuild these neural posts. Maybe we need to build the entire railing. Can we find an artisan? But before we even get there, we need to do a full evaluation of the structural integrity of the thing.
Yeah.
That's all the columns that are holding floors up, all the beams that are framed into those columns, the roof, which generally is usually is the first point of weakness. When the roof goes, then pigeons, the rain, and all the other things begin to go up there. And then the next thing you say, trees are growing out of the building.
Yeah. I have to jump in, Sir Hugh, because we're almost out of time. Ms. Deb, final question to you. Going back to what Delia, I don't know if I want to say what Delia suggested, but you think it makes sense to spend the money to fix it?
I think it makes sense to spend the money to fix it. What we use it for is a whole other question. So you can adapt its use. There are many countries of the world that have used their older buildings and use them. For example, in Ghana, they repurposed a building and gave it to the cultural and creative community. A group called Musica, they're musical union, and they repurposed it, so it can absolutely be repurposed. And I've heard a number of ideas floating around as to ways that can be done. The same can be done for ward if we find that it's not practical to have a theater space there. But I think it makes sense to restore it as opposed to repair it, which means that we maintain the aesthetic, which means that we maintain, so we're not putting fiberglass windows into the ward theater, so that we're ensuring that all of the intricate details are maintained as they were originally formed when it was built.
All right. Thanks to you both for speaking with us. God bless you both.
Thank you.
Deborah Hickling-Gordon, UNESCO Global Expert Facility Member on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions, and architect Hugh Dunbar.
All right, folks, coming up, we hear more about the National Chess Championships. Soon come. Stay with us, please.